This is Radar from the Radar Entertainment blog coming to you with the second half observation of the 2022 MLB season, okay? So, we're currently now in the wild card. If you're wondering, that's what's going on in the playoffs. If you're looking for my wild card prediction, you can check out on the Radar Entertainment blog, on the RadarMedia.com, or Radar4428 blogger account, where you'll see my prediction. So, one thing is this. I will be honest, and my predictions at the start of the year where the Yankees would be a playoff team, but I thought the Rays would win the division because they always find a way to make the playoffs. What I didn't see was that the Blue Jays would somehow finish second but over the Rays, but then both of them will make the playoffs. I did not think that both Toronto, Tampa, and New York would be three division rivals all making the playoffs. I will admit the Red Sox this year were horrible and they had a tailspin and they finished in last place. And Baltimore actually finished with a winning record and finished in fourth place. So, yeah, I can admit that I got the wrong the Red Sox being good because, again, I'm a little biased there. But also I thought the Orioles were just going to be horrible again. I thought Toronto would just be this close. Obviously, I wasn't a huge fan of them filing Charlie Montaneo, but at least with John Schneider, the interim manager, looks like Rowdy Tellez's doppelganger. He did a good job, and he's going to get, obviously, Manager of the Year vote. Okay? I completely wrong. Beginning of the season, completely wrong. First, the observations were like, okay, Cleveland's in first place. But I'm like, Cleveland's not. I'm like, Minnesota's like in first place. Cleveland's up there. And I'm like, the Sox are going to pass both of them. Because guess what? The White Sox have all this talent. But again, Tim Anderson got hurt at the wrong time. Robert and Eloy missed significant time. And Robert was injury-plagued most of the season. We were out there playing Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn in the outfield, two first basemen. That's one thing if the whole offense is clicking, but again, you can't be a defensive liability if you're not scoring enough runs. Okay, A.J. Pollock playing center field, when he hasn't played center field in a long time, that was an issue. Moncada was never the same player. Harrison, I love the guy, great defensive player, but he couldn't hit. And Abreu's power disappeared. Yeah, he's going to finish with he finished with one of the best batting averages, blah, 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 but his power was missing. Grandal missed a huge chunk of the year, and when he came back, he was nothing special. Giolito and Lance Lynn were super inconsistent, and Kopech got hurt again. Dylan Cease and Cueto pitched great, but then the Sox' biggest acquisitions in Kendall Graveman and Joe Kelly were horrible and inconsistent, and the trade deadline acquisition, Jake Diekman, was inconsistent and horrible at times. So you had all that together. The White Sox did not win the division. They embarrassed themselves by not winning a game till the end of the season when it didn't matter. But at least they can say that they finished at 500, and they finished better than the Twins. But Cleveland just surged past everybody, and I'm wrong about that. Because Bieber, Savali, McKenzie, and Quantrill, and Plesac all were better off healthy this year, and all pitched way better. Okay, Emmanuel Clase, best reliever in the American League this year. That bullpen was lights out. And outside of Jose Ramirez every year being a 30-plus, 100 RBI every single season, the likes of Josh Naylor being healthy helped him out in the lineup. Rookie Oscar Gonzalez, rookie Steven Kwan, Jimenez had a great offensive year, and Rosario has put it together as a two-way player. It all clicked for them all at one time, and that's how Cleveland overtake everything. And I could say I was wrong. Okay, Kansas City is one game worse than the Tigers, but again, both are bad. That's just what it was. The fact that the Mariners made the playoffs, I was wrong. I thought the Mariners would be probably a much better team this year, and I thought all the people who thought that Mike Trout and Ohtani and the Angels and Rodon, they would make the playoffs, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was right about that. But they did pass the Rangers, so the Rangers were not the third best team because the Angels were really bad at the first half. And of course, again, a stat of Ohtani and Trout hitting basically more home runs than wins the Angels had is embarrassing. But again, congratulations to the Mariners for breaking that playoff drought. They made the playoffs. They were smart. They got Robbie Ray. They went and got Louis Castillo. They got Suarez and Winker. They're like, let's get all these Reds players. And again, Julio Rodriguez, even though he missed time, Rookie of the Year, great. Having Mitch Haniger back in the lineup in the clubhouse helped them out. The likes of Ty France making the All-Star team, that helped them out. Maybe getting Adam Frazier didn't help them out that much. But again, Cal Riley, man, that dude is the Mitch Garver of this season because I will say this, though. The 25-year-old had an incredible season. He hit 27 home runs and drove in 63 runs. And he wasn't even the everyday catcher because they were using Luis Torrens. They got Kirk Casale. They had Luis Torrens. They lose a lot of catchers this year. And I can say that to Seattle, they did an amazing job on getting themselves the ability to have a good offensive catcher with all the other weapons they made. And yeah, their bullpen isn't greatest, which I think that's going to hold them back, but it was just good enough for them to go and make the playoffs, okay? The Rangers, they obviously dropped from where they were. Disappointing season. Obviously, Chris Wilbur got fired, like Joe Madden got fired, and the Royals fired Mike Matheny, which is another thing, is that the Rangers were only 8 games more wins than the 8 who weren't trying. They traded Matt Olson and Matt Chapman. They traded Frankie Montas and a few other guys, and you're like, well, they're going to have a bad season. Well, they did. But the Rangers were only 8 games better. That's not a lot in the grand scheme of things when the Astros are so far ahead and the Mariners made the playoffs and the Angels are ahead of you that you barely finished better than the 8 who were purposely trying to lose. That is just embarrassing. No offense to Jonathan Gray, but that rotation this year did not turn out what they wanted. The bullpen was a disaster. Next year, they'll have Josh Jung every day at third base to go with Nate Lowe and Seager and Simeon. So they'll at least have 4 really good offensive players in that infield. They really still haven't figured out the outfield because every center fielder either got hurt or was disappointing, and Adolis Garcia is way better suited to play corner spot. In the National League, the Mets still technically won a division, but they tied with them, but in some sort of way, so that at the same time, the Braves technically win that division, and when they win that division and stuff, the Mets then have to go and play a wild card team, which is what they have to host a wild card and play a wild card team. They went and they are now going to be hosting the Padres in the playoff. This is an issue because the Mets have had a horrible time this year facing the Padres, and that's embarrassing to me as a Mets fan. But also, what you can say is that that's the thing I was wrong about, that I thought the Mets would still hold on in the first half. But what I was right about was, if you look at the beginning of the season, I said the Braves are going to win the division. The Braves did exactly what they did last year, which was, hey, we're going to struggle a bit. We're not going to do well. We'll make some moves. We get Jake Odorizzi and Robbie Grossman. That will make the team a little bit better. Yeah, trading Will Smith I thought was not the greatest move in the world. But you go ahead and you trade Will Smith. Okay, cool. But again, Acuna is back and healthy. And they won the World Series last year without Ronald Acuna. They also this year could win the World Series without Adam Duvall. Okay? But having Rosario and having Marcelo Ozuna and Robbie Grossman could make up for the loss of Adam Duvall. But what also up Atlanta was calling Michael Harris the rookie up. And he started the year as the number 9 hitter, and all of a sudden he moved up further in the lineup. He's going to probably win National League Rookie of the Year, and his teammate Strider is probably going to be runner-up there. Kyle Wright, I'm not giving the Cy Young because just for the Braves are a really good team, they score a lot of runs, doesn't mean you're the best pitcher. But he almost won 20 games this year to go with the veteran Charlie Morton and Max Fried. And then that's without Ian Anderson, and they never got Soroka back and all these other guys they had this year. So yeah, Ian Anderson was a huge part of that rotation last year. And this year, not so much. That's one of the reasons they went and got Jake Odorizzi, because they needed somebody to eat innings in the back of the rotation. I was still under the impression that Colin McHugh, when Houston made him reliever, that he did not like that he liked being a starting pitcher. But being a willing, relief pitcher for them was good for them, but I still thought he could have been the 4th or 5th starter on this team. So, right at the beginning of the year, but the first half, not sure. Phillies made the playoffs. I didn't think that this whole season because of Bryce Harper getting hit on the hand and missing a chunk of the season. Yeah, obviously Aaron Nola and obviously Zach Wheeler. They're their usual pitchers, and they went and got Thor, which was a good move. They improved their center field defense with Brandon Marsh, getting Edmundo Sosa and the stock guy coming up and saying goodbye to Dieter McCory. Those were great moves to help them going forward. Bohm had a turnaround year. Hoskins and Schwarber did their thing, and JT Realmuto being the best catcher in the National League. That all helped them out. What also helped them out was trading for Dave Robertson at the deadline, because that bullpen, again, has been bad, and every single reliever, Familia, Knebel, Brad Hand, not all of them worked out, but getting Robertson, who was healthy, solidified that bullpen, and Rob Thompson, the interim manager, after firing George Girardi, another team that fired somebody, actually went and did what they're supposed to, okay? And then the Brewers were barely in first place with the Cardinals, and I thought it'd go neck and neck all season, and then both teams would make the playoffs. The Brewers did not make the playoffs. Things did not go well for them. Yelich and McCutchen weren't the best offensive acquisitions, and Renfroe missed time this year. And again, still had a hole at third base. Tellez had a great power year. And Adames and Wong were their usual suspects. And again, you know that saying when you got multiple quarterbacks? Well, they had like 4 or 5 catchers stood up for them this year, and it really wasn't that much to help them out. Obviously, Corbin Burns had a good season after winning the Cy Young. Woodruff was good. Peralta missing all that time with injuries, and some of the other pitchers in the rotation missing time didn't help. I thought it was a dumb move trading Hader, and he hasn't been great with San Diego. But Devin Williams and Rogers were not what you thought. Hader, with Milwaukee, was still a shutdown closer. And I think that move is going to come back to haunt them when it comes to next year. And then before the season started, I thought the Pirates can be the worst team in that division. Okay, but in the first half, the Reds somehow were the worst team, and the Cubs were right there, and the Pirates were in third place. I was like, wow, surprising. The Pirates are in third place. Well, that little surprise at the All-Star break was, well, that's an illusion. They're going to drop down the last. So, again, right about that all season. The Reds obviously finished fourth because they were trying to lose. I said they traded Suarez. They traded Winker. They traded Tyler Mahle to the Twins. They traded Luis Castillo. They cut Colin Moran. Moustakas in India were injury-plagued this year. Votto missed the last month or so of the season. Hunter Green missed a lot of time. So this team, and Nick Senzel missed time. Tyler Stevenson was snake bit, missed a lot of time. So again, going into next year, they got a lot of questions, but obviously the main issue is health. And now that we know they're trying to lose, maybe they'll just go with the young guys going forward and not waste time with veterans and then just flipping them. And then the Cubs, I will give the Cubs credit. They won a lot of games the second half of the season. They finished in third place, but I was right. I was like, when the Brewers and Cardinals are trying to win a division, but the Pirates are never trying to win and the Reds are purposely not trying to win, then of course the Cubs are going to finish in third place. And give them credit. They won some games. They did really well. But again, they're not better than the Cardinals. They're not better than the Brewers, even with the question about the Brewers, okay? And then the West, I was right about the top 3. I knew all season long the Dodgers would be the best team in all the National League, maybe all of baseball. I thought the Giants would be a playoff team, but they kind of cratered this year. Traded a bunch of guys at the deadline, not a bunch of guys, but a few guys at the deadline. Rodon was a great pickup for them. Jack Peterson was a great pickup for them. I was right about those things. But of course, they were third place at the All-Star break, and they finished third place. The Padres made the playoffs, which obviously surprised me because they are disappointed like the Brooklyn Nets. When you have Machado, and you trade for Josh Bell, and you have Juan Soto, and you traded for every starting pitcher you have in Snell and Clevenger, and you trade for Sean Manaea, and you traded for Joe Musgrove, and you traded for Yu Darvish. Your whole rotation is guys that you went out and traded for because you're like, we need to win now, and we got all these starting pitchers. You went and got Josh Hader for your bullpen, and obviously he's been up and down. That has been the world's greatest thing, but again, it's like a super team. They traded for all these guys. Now, Tatis is not playing. Kim and Cronenworth have been great up the middle. That's what they're saying is. And so they made the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to win the World Series, but so far, so good. And then what it was is that the Diamondbacks were in last place, at the All-Star break. Well, they passed the Rockies, but again, I thought both teams would be bad. One, how the Rockies have always been about offense. The Diamondbacks on paper have a good rotation and a good bullpen. Obviously, that didn't translate to them making the playoffs. But again, I was right about both those teams. The managers, they're staying. Bud Black, Torey Lovullo. You know what? You can't blame those two good managers for bad front office work. Okay? That's really what it is. Okay? So I will admit, Cleveland completely wrong about them making the playoffs, winning division, being a bad team. Wrong about the Red Sox, obviously. Orioles having a winning record. And the Blue Jays finishing second over the Rays, which is surprising that they both made the playoffs at the same time. And obviously, I knew the Yankees were a good team. I just didn't think they were going to win the division. I didn't think they have enough pitching. But obviously, they went and traded for Frankie Montas. They missed Chapman and a lot of their relievers for this year, so they got a little lucky there. Judge had this historical season, blah, blah, blah. But again, saying what I'm right with. I was wrong that the Mariners made the playoffs. I thought they wouldn't. I thought they would just be good enough to finish second place. I'm telling all these observers who thought the Rangers and Angels were a sneaky playoff team, no. The Rangers should be embarrassed that they finished barely over the A's. The Mets should be embarrassed. They blew division lead, and then they don't have and they have to play the Padres instead of having, obviously, a bye in the playoffs. That's on them. I was right about the Braves at the beginning of the season that they would win division. I was wrong about the Phillies not making the playoffs either at the beginning of the season or when Bryce Harper went down. Wrong about the Brewers winning division and making the playoffs, but I knew that the Cardinals would. I just didn't think it would be like this way. right about the Pirates being a bad team with the Reds, and I knew the Cubs would finish in third place. I knew that the Dodgers would make the playoffs. I was wrong about the Giants all season long recovering and being a playoff team. But I knew the Padres would be a wild card team. I just wasn't sure if it was going to be them and the Giants or the Phillies and the Braves or the Mets or how many teams it was going to be. And I knew that the Diamondbacks Rockies would be bad. Thanks for listening to the second half observations of the 2022 season. For On the Red Table, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.